Welcome to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Here's your host, the Bitcoin Boomer himself, Gary Leland.
And welcome to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. I'm your host, Gary Leland, the original Bitcoin Boomer. Been the Bitcoin Boomer for quite a while now, so I think I pretty much have that title implanted. Now this show, and I'll probably say this over and over, but it's not just for boomers. I'm the boomer. This is a Bitcoin show. So Bitcoin show plus boomer, Bitcoin Boomer Show. Got it? Good. Now, in this show, we try to educate you about Bitcoin. That's all I want to do is education. I'm not going to sell you any Bitcoin. I'm not going to give you any offers where you can go get Bitcoin. I am just going to educate you about Bitcoin. So hopefully, someday, when Bitcoin becomes the world's currency, you already know about it and you're not sitting there going, what in the world's happening to me? Okay, because that's going to be the future. Now, today we have Lynne Bairstow, who is not only a personal friend of mine, she's a longtime Bitcoiner, a longtime advisor. She's a great person, so she's going to come on the show. And now let's bring on my producer, Stephanie. Stephanie, you are the one that talks to the people we bring on the show and sets things up. What was your thoughts on Lynne? Give people a little insight as to the Stephanie Zone.
Stephanie Zone.
Need a big header that comes on. Stephanie Zone, Stephanie Zone.
Okay. I am excited to have Lynne back. She was a great guest before, and I'm looking forward to having her again. And it looks like she is having a podcast show, too, with a partner in the podcast. So interested to hear the kind of show she has and the guests. It looks like it's about Bitcoin, literally called Build with Bitcoin. And that she's still advising companies within the Bitcoin space. So looking forward to how she feels being in that space now that it's, these days.
Yes, Lynne is quite a person. I'm glad to have her back a second time. And you're correct on everything you said. Now, she's been in Bitcoin, I think, since like 2012. And on her show, she's on over episode 50. She was a Bitcoin advisor, worked with venture funds, companies, new companies, investments. She is a smart cookie. And like I said, she is an OG of the Bitcoin world. So she has a different perspective sometimes on other people that are in the Bitcoin that haven't been in it as long. She's seen it go from, I'm going to assume $100 to $1,000, drop back down to $200, from $1,000 to $500, drop back down to $1,500. So she has seen these cycles for a long, long time. So she has an understanding of Bitcoin that many people who are just getting into Bitcoin don't understand and haven't seen before. But it doesn't matter if it goes from 1,000 to 100 or from 100,000 to 70,000. It's always scary when Bitcoin drops. And we're going to get you prepared. So stay tuned. We'll be right back in a minute. And welcome back to the show. Now, before I get the show started and bring Lynne on the show, I do want to ask you, if you enjoy these shows and the content we bring you, please subscribe and hit the bell thing or whatever. But help us out. That really helps more than you think. Now, let's bring Lynne on the show. Lynne, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on here. We're kind of like, this will be a good conversation because it's more like talking with a friend instead of just, it's kind of like hanging out. We would be able to do this anyway, even if it wasn't an interview. How are you doing?
I'm great, Gary. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Lynne does so much stuff. I mean, we're not going to get into a whole bio, but you do the Bill with Bitcoin podcast. You're on the Monday night Bitblock Boom Spaces with me. You're a speaker. Some people come up to me and occasionally say, oh, wow, introduce me as an OG. You're an OG. You're the real OG. But welcome to the show, and let's start talking about Bitcoin. Anything new that you want to tell me or anyone else is happening or going on real quick?
No, I mean, I think our conversation today will kind of talk about Bitcoin has been part of my life since 12, 13. I was introduced in 2012, but 2013. But in the last year, since we last talked and since the last Bitblock Boom conference, I mean, I've been really much deeper into innovation, what's happening in innovation on the Bitcoin, in the Bitcoin ecosystem or Bitcoin protocol. So I've been really excited about that. I mean, it gives even more reasons to love Bitcoin, is to think about all the possibilities that it's enabling and kind of improving our world. So that innovation would probably be the key word for the conversation today.
So much has happened just over the last year even, but definitely since 2012 or 2017 or 2020 or Oh my gosh, so much has happened this year, though. I mean, we got ETFs now. Everybody on the White House team is a Bitcoiner. They're going to do a strategic reserve. It's just the amount of stuff going on. I don't think the regular person realizes what all is going on for some reason, even though it should be all in their face. I mean, it's because Bitcoin should be going to the moon, which it is, really. I mean, I'm not complaining. I never thought I'd complain about $80,000 or $90,000 Bitcoin. That's hard to believe. But in all reality, with all the stuff going on, I mean, Bhutan's even mining Bitcoin. I mean, it's like crazy. What do you think is the reason that and I know it's not, I know they're not into it, so let me rephrase it. Let me say this statement first. On the last real big run in 2021, I had people calling me that had not talked to since elementary school, contacting me wanting to know about Bitcoin. I'm not having that happen this time. So, and this is way more exciting than 2020 and 2021. What do you think the reason for that is? The average person is not just going, I got to find out about this.
I don't know. And like you, I'm really mystified why we haven't had more upside price action in recent months since everything that's happened since the first of the year. I find it remarkable. I mean, I see that we have not only traditional financial, we've had rule changes in the U.S. that support corporations holding Bitcoin in their treasuries and on their balance sheet. We have the ETFs, which are, more traditional, maybe pension investments being able to easily buy Bitcoin through that vehicle. And we have the President of the United States hanging the Bitcoin white paper in the White House and talking about Bitcoin on a regular basis. So it's unprecedented. I feel like there should be more upside Bitcoin. But having been in Bitcoin for a while, I do know that it has its own, has its own mind or has its own, it just doesn't do what you think it's going to do, which is one of the things I love most about it is it doesn't fit to a narrative. So I'm just happy it is holding at levels that aren't out of sight so that we can all continue to acquire some Bitcoin before the institutions totally take a run on it. But one data point, which is very specific to me, is I was talking to my mom on Sunday, who's 90, and I've been talking to her about Bitcoin for years. She doesn't really get it, but she did say to me that she was really excited that I'd found something that I really loved and that President Trump is talking about Bitcoin. And so I think that getting President Trump to talk about Bitcoin kind of validated it in my mom's mind that I haven't been crazy all these years. And there's something to what I'm spending my time and effort on. So I thought that was pretty cute.
Well, first of all, let me say that is just fantastic. Your mom is still alive at 90 years old. I would love to be in your situation. That's something that you should be very excited about. But,
she is not.
Go ahead.
Not only alive, she drives her car. She, she gets in political debates. She's sharp as a tack. She's like active. She's amazing. So I feel really lucky about that.
Yeah.
As boomers, when we look at what our gene pool is, it's like I hit the lotto with
You definitely hit the lotto. I've already surpassed the age of my parents, I think. So you definitely got the lotto genes. I'm like working overtime trying to make it every year past them, which I think I'm going to do fine. But that's fantastic. I look at right now at Bitcoin like this big spring, and it's just ETFs, white paper, MicroStrategies, MetaPlanet, all these things are just tightening and tightening and tightening this spring. And it's just going to be a matter of time before that spring gets so tight that it just pops. And Bitcoin, I think we're going to have some candles that we just never thought would ever happen, just all at once, gradually then suddenly, as Parker Lewis's book is. That's my thinking is these people are just because they have to see this. So it's just a matter of time.
I completely agree with you. And it's Samson Mao talks about this a lot too, with the green candle that's going to just hit. But, it's really a matter, it's really simple. It's supply and demand. And we know that Bitcoin, I think people are just not accustomed to something having an absolute fixed supply, which Bitcoin does. And, it's 21 million, but those of us who are more familiar with it know that there really aren't 21 million Bitcoin that will be available. And we're at like 93, 94% of all Bitcoin being released into the marketplace. So there's a schedule of additional Bitcoin that will be released, not nearly enough to meet the pent up demand that will be available, even MicroStrategy alone, but corporations, ETFs, sovereign nations buying it. So it's a tight spring, as you mentioned, and I see it really. It's a simple mathematical law that the price will go up if demand exceeds supply, and I think our demand is just getting put into place in large levels. So it's an exciting time. I completely agree with you.
Well, there's two things there. Number one, you're correct. I mean, everybody knows, well, not everybody, but anyone who's into Bitcoin knows there are 21 million Bitcoin, but approximately estimated is 4,000 Bitcoin or 4 million Bitcoin have been lost. I know I lost $100 worth, which is probably worth 1,000 now. So, I donated my little bit to it. So if 4 million are lost, we're talking 17 million. And the secondary part of that really is companies like Microsoft and MicroStrategies or strategies now have bought all these ETFs. They've bought more Bitcoin than will be produced this year, probably, if you add them all up. So there's definitely a shortage of Bitcoin right now out there available. So, and it's another reason that we should be seeing higher prices. Hey, I want to switch subjects here real quick to something I found really, really interesting. Have you watched the video with about Josh Mandel? Anything on Josh Mandel?
I was tracking it a little bit when he was making the predictions, and he did hit that price prediction. I think you get a lot more attention when you hit it correctly than if you miss it. A lot of people make price predictions that are missed, but it was.
He hit it on the nose. Within 20 cents. That's pretty.
Yes.
I don't care who you are. That's pretty hard to get it within 20 cents.
Yes. No, I agree. And I think we're going to see more and more people that are, and from more statistical backgrounds, from more, analytical backgrounds that are trying to do it. But and I know it's like, I think Bitcoin has a level of price action that is non-typical for stocks, bonds, other financial markets that we've seen. So just like you and I both thought that, or probably think that Bitcoin's price should be.
I just realized we're about to hit a hard cut here. I wasn't even watching the time. I was having such a good time. We're going to take a break for a commercial word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with Lynne Bairstow. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Before we go any further and I bring Lynne back, I do want to make sure you know and you're aware that I am just here to talk about Bitcoin. I don't have any Bitcoin I want to sell you. I don't have any Bitcoin I would sell you. It's just a conversation about Bitcoin to educate you on where we're at in Bitcoin. Maybe you aren't interested in buying Bitcoin right now, but maybe you'll pick up enough information watching this show to answer your basic questions. So if there is a time that you feel like you need to obtain or buy some Bitcoin, you'll have a base. So please continue watching the show and recommend the show to any friends you have that may be interested in Bitcoin or you think need to know about Bitcoin. Now let's get back with Lynne. Lynne, welcome back to the show. Okay, we were talking about, see, that time went so by, I knew we were going to have a good time talking. So Bitcoin is going crazy, that's for sure. And the thing that got me on, just going back to Josh Mandel, is that he picked the date, but he not only picked the date, are you familiar with the Tesla 369 deal? And I know people make up all kind of crazy stuff to justify stuff, but Tesla wrote one time that if people understood the power of 3, 6, and 9, that it would just be, they just wouldn't believe it. And I never knew what that meant. But if you take all his numbers, they all break down to 3, 6, and 9. And he's claiming he's using information to calculate this that was lost. So that all gets to me. And then he said that if Bitcoin hit, 84,000 on March 14th, Pi Day, that it would reach $444,086 or something within 12 months, which we've heard all kinds of things. But if you watch the video of someone breaking down that 369 deal, you really start going, oh my gosh, this is crazy stuff. So that's why I was bringing that up. It's just kind of crazy. It's kind of worth just watching to see that. What do you think of GameStop? Switching subjects, GameStop.
Yeah,
this is crazy too, to me.
Well, it is. I mean, I think GameStop is probably the one company that, people are so aware of that story and how it changed financial markets, and it just showed the power of people being able to go into an asset and raise the price and manipulate it, and kind of the plebs versus the Wall Street gang. And the fact that they're early on, I mean, you've had the board of Microsoft turn down the opportunity to put Bitcoin in their balance sheet and their treasury, and other traditional financial companies, or tech companies even, that should be a little bit more progressive. But GameStop, I think, is going to be a wake-up call for a lot of corporate boards that say, maybe we should be looking at this. Obviously, they have a big treasury. They have the potential to buy a lot of Bitcoin and move the price. But I think a more important narrative is that in MicroStrategy, or strategy as it's now called, has been an outlier because they've been one of the early movers. And Michael Saylor is so bold in how he has not only bought Bitcoin on his balance sheet, but totally, remade financial markets with offering vehicles, preferred variations of preferred stocks and bonds to be able to add to his Bitcoin treasury and allow those vehicles to be easily accessible to the general public. But GameStop is going to be another way that a retail investor can have Bitcoin exposure, depending on what level they get into with it, but by buying a stock on Robinhood. And so I think it will be another further expansion of awareness of Bitcoin, of making more retail investors aware of it. And I think more corporations will be looking to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet, which I think should be happening anyway. I think it's almost irresponsible that a pension plan or a corporation not be exploring an asset allocation of 1% to 2% into Bitcoin of their excess assets. So, even BlackRock is recommending 1% to 2% of a portfolio allocation.
Well, with $4 billion on their balance sheet, they could buy 50,000 Bitcoin. I mean, they would have more than Marathon. They'd have more than almost every country except for the United States and China. I mean, what I'd like to see, I think this would be so cool, because they have, what do they do with games now? You can buy all video games from the manufacturer direct. So all they can sell in game-wise is used games, I guess. They can buy used games and sell them. I'd love to see them work that buy Bitcoin and become a Bitcoin store. Set all those stores up across the country where you could go in and just buy Bitcoin. And, they charge you $5 with a thumb drive, and there would be your keys on it or something, So I just think that would be too cool. I mean, they're set up to be able to do it.
Well, another really interesting, I don't know if you're familiar with the company Thunder Games, but they're a gaming company, but they distribute their earnings in Bitcoin. So, for a player, I mean, one of the things that Bitcoin facilitates is immediate settlement of payments and micropayments, which are two items that I think are just fascinating that people don't really appreciate. But if you're a gamer and you're playing a game and you earn income, you earn winnings on the game, you have to have a credit card or a bank account to settle it to, and it takes, some time. But with Bitcoin, because of, and on the Lightning Network, instant settlements, you can be playing a game and get, 10 cents worth of winnings, deposit it to your Bitcoin wallet immediately. You can convert it into fiat if you want, but, it's a way of introducing a lot more people into the magic of how Bitcoin can provide you with, a transaction settlement on a Sunday night at 10 o'clock, immediately, versus having to wait for a bank to open and make those transactions. And also payments on very small levels, which, in the traditional financial system is expensive and hard to do. So I think that's another maybe interesting merging with GameStop that could and Bitcoin.
I didn't know. Didn't know what Thunder Games did. I know that's Muzz and I believe Rockstar developer. I mean, I think both of them are involved with that, or am I right?
Just as investors, but it's actually a team out of it's a founder team, so they're investors in it. I think that Thunder raised some funds on the Muzz's platform. I don't know about Rockstar's involvement in it, but it's a really cool company, a great company. Because I mean, if anyone plays solitaire out there, for example, instead of playing solitaire and getting nothing for your time, you can play it on the Thunder Games platform and earn sats every time you play. So anytime you spend time on a game, because they have advertisements being fed to you, you can earn sats. Just like Fountain, as a podcast platform, if you listen to the podcast on Fountain, you actually can earn sats for every minute you listen to a podcast.
So is that an app you download on your phone, Thunder Games? Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know it. I knew it existed. I knew it was on Muzz's platform, Lightning Ventures, I think, but I didn't know exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good to find out. So another way, there are a lot of ways to get free Bitcoin. I mean, there really is. I mean, I think I've gotten, just from Fold, since it started, I probably got like $4,000, $5,000 worth of Bitcoin. Just every day spinning the wheel, or which I don't do every day, or using buying on Amazon. I usually buy Amazon with their stuff. I'll buy $1,000 gift certificate and just upload it to Amazon, and when I'm out of that, I'll buy another 1,000. But like I said, I'm up a ton for not doing anything. There are a lot of ways to do that.
I need to get better at doing that. There are a lot of ways to get free Bitcoin, and I just don't take advantage nearly as much as I should. But I think that, talking about supply and demand and scarcity, we will all start paying a lot more attention to how we can get Bitcoin. And these are also great ways of introducing people to Bitcoin. If you're not even ready to buy Bitcoin, if you take advantage of some of these things, there's even one called Steps, where it measures your steps and you earn Bitcoin for every step you take. Sats, you can earn like 7 sats a day if you just punch into the platform. So, I mean, we should put together like a checklist of all the free ways to get Bitcoin.
We should there should be a doc somewhere that is just like you go to and you go, okay, here are the 50 ways to get free Bitcoin. And if you did all 50 of them, most of them are everyday thing. There's one for walking. If you walk every day and do your exercise, you get some. There's like Fold with credit cards. There's now Thunder Games coming out. But you could get a lot of Bitcoin for free if you really work that. I mean, you don't have to have a lot of money to get into Bitcoin. And with what Bitcoin's going to do, I mean, you don't need a lot for it to turn into a lot of money in 10, 20 years. So before we go any further, it's time for another break from a word from our sponsor. So please stay tuned. And like I said, don't forget to share this show with your friend. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you right back in a minute. Thanks. And welcome back to the Bitcoin Boomer Show. Now, before I go any further, I do want to make you aware of something. This is something fantastic. It's a conference I do every year. I've been doing it. This will be my 8th year for the Bitblock Boom Bitcoin Conference, which is in McKinney, Texas, or Dallas, Texas this year. It's a great conference. All we talk about is Bitcoin. It's basically a 4-day event, different things happening for 4 days. But the main days are Friday and Saturday. You do need to check this out, bitblockboom.com. Please check that out if you're interested in Bitcoin at all, especially if you're in Dallas, because it's still even Dallas next year. Won't be in Dallas. I have people come from all over the world, and it's in your hometown. All you got to do is drive a car. So if you're into Bitcoin and people are coming from all across the world to a conference and you can drive to get there, might be worth checking out. Okay, so check out bitblockboom.com. Now let's bring Lynne back on the show and get back into the Bitcoin talk. Okay, we've been talking about this supply shock going on. We've been talking about getting free Bitcoin, which is great. I want to know now about Build with Bitcoin. That's a show you've been doing for about a year now, since Bitblock Boom, since you spoke at Bitblock Boom last year. And before we go, Lynne spoke last year. She's speaking this year. She's heading up Women in Bitcoin Happy Hour at the end of Saturday. So Lynne is pretty involved with Bitblock Boom. We love having her there. But tell us about Bill with Bitcoin.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. It's a podcast and a YouTube show with my co-host Israel Munoz. And what we do is we both come from investment backgrounds. I had a VC fund for 10 years prior to shutting it down so I could focus all my time on Bitcoin. And Israel ran an accelerator, a Silicon Valley accelerator, had a startup himself. So we both come from this background of startups and investing in startups. And we noticed that there was a void in the Bitcoin educational market where a lot of people were talking about macroeconomics and the foundational benefits of Bitcoin, but no one was really talking about Bitcoin as a technology. And that's how I became introduced to it. I look at Bitcoin as a financial technology. It's a protocol, much like the internet was a protocol that changed the way we communicate, that we receive information and entertainment. And I looked at Bitcoin as a technology that changes the way that we will exchange value from person to person instead of having to go through institutions like a bank or other service providers. So it's very exciting to me as a technology. And I think it has, just like we were talking about Thunder Games and the ability to make payments in incredibly tiny amounts. You can also make large payments globally, across borders on any time, day or night, 24 hours, 24/7 through Bitcoin protocols. So what we do on this podcast is we talk to the founders of companies that are creating the infrastructure and the tools to enable easier Bitcoin adoption and usage. And we also talk to some of the investors, the venture capital funds and angel investors that are supporting these startups, because most startups will need some cash infusion in order to grow. So I think in addition to just holding Bitcoin, there are also opportunities to participate in. If you look at Amazon stock or Google stock or Apple stock, NVIDIA stock, these are some of the best performing investments over time. And I think that there will be opportunities for investing in Bitcoin companies going forward. But I think at the very least, if you're not even interested in an investment, just to listen to some of the conversations that we have with these founders just points out how much innovation and how much we have to look forward to in terms of financial transactions that are cheaper and faster than anything that we've known before. And that's really kind of at the heart of the Bitcoin protocol.
Well, I need to start listening to your show because you have some great guests on there from what I just saw. And I don't even know them all. So there are definitely some people I need to know more about on there. So I definitely will start listening to that for sure. So let me ask you another question. In your opinion, in your humble opinion, let me rephrase this. I feel a lot of people don't get into Bitcoin because either they're scared of it because they don't know how to hold it, holding it in a wallet or whatever. Bitcoin is you're your own bank. And being your own bank is a great power. It really is. And as Voltaire said, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, that's Voltaire, not Uncle Ben on Spider-Man. A lot of people give him credit. So do you think a lot of people are scared of Bitcoin because of the fact up until recently, the only way you could do it was hold it on a wallet, whether it was yours, a hot wallet, or another site. And at the same time, do you think that the fact that we have ETFs now and other ways of holding Bitcoins, we have stocks, like MicroStrategies, for instance, it's on the QQQ. Everybody owns QQQs holding Bitcoin and they don't even know it. Do you think these things are going to help with Bitcoin adoption to people who are not into Bitcoin? Or do they even know they're holding Bitcoin?
No, I think that, to your earlier point, it's in the news. It's, you have the president of the U.S. talking about it on a regular basis. And I think more and more people have heard it. So maybe people aren't asking you about it as much, Gary, because they've heard it before and they feel that they have some familiarity with it. But you're absolutely right. There's still a big barrier toward understanding, conceptually what Bitcoin is to saying, I need to have some because, frankly, it is still kind of complicated to buy it. And in the pure sense of the way, like hardware wallets, and it takes personal responsibility. So having vehicles like the ETFs, like a surrogate for Bitcoin through MicroStrategy stock, I think these will make it easier for people to become introduced to it. And that's dipping your toe in the water. But as you know, and I know, part of the real benefit of Bitcoin is being self-sovereign, of having control of your own money. If you have your money in the bank, frankly, it's not technically your money. I mean, there was a video circulating on the internet this week of somebody who wanted to withdraw $2,500 from a bank, and the bank needed to know what the purchase was for before they would release it. And, it just points out to some of these regulations that it show that we don't have as much control. So if you buy Bitcoin and you hold your own Bitcoin, you do have now control of your asset, of your money. And so I think as people start to appreciate that, and as tools start to improve, this is part of the companies that we focus on the podcast, are some of the tools that make it easier to buy or easier to store, or if you have Bitcoin, how to borrow against it if you need to unlock some of the value or the appreciation from it. So increasingly, there are going to be more opportunities to make it easier for people to buy, hold, and use their Bitcoin. Just as you saw in a comparison, the internet, the early days of the internet. I mean, you had to remember the old modems that you had to dial up and a drop off, and you had the discs being dropped from the sky from, for the different providers of services. And it was complicated to even get online. And now people use the internet on the phone in their pocket, all the time, everywhere, and they never think about it. So I see the trajectory of Bitcoin usage kind of following that path. It's complicated and a little wonky right now, but through better tools and better understanding, it'll get easier to buy and hold. But to your point, it's like sooner is definitely better when it comes to holding this asset and acquiring it.
Yeah, it does. And I remember those days. I remember my modem was 12, whatever, and then 24, and then 56. Oh, man, I was moving with 50. But you had to cut it off. You had to turn off your modem or get off the internet when you got through. People wouldn't believe what they have now. And everybody told me I was an idiot in 96 to start an e-commerce site. No one's going to buy stuff on the internet. And I said, well, I don't even understand why they wouldn't. So you got to go with this stuff. I think a lot of people also think they have to buy $89,000 worth of Bitcoin, and going, I can't afford that much. They still don't have the concept down that they can buy as little as $5 worth of Bitcoin. I think that's kind of the big holdup too, is that they just don't understand that. They just see the price. And I think you still have people who, boomers, who think it's that coin that they show behind the screen on like Stuart Varney and go, do you have one in your pocket you could show me? Because I've been asked that before when explaining it to people. Do I have one on me? Well, no, I don't. And I go, man, I must have done a bad job of explaining Bitcoin if you're asking me if I got one on me.
Yeah, and that's where I use, a lot of my friends that say that they don't, and it's kind of the tangible aspect of it. So it's like, boomers especially, they say, well, it's not real. There's nothing that backs it. There's nothing that really supports it. And I ask them, it's like, well, how do you read your news? And it's like, basically everyone reads it on a computer right now, where before you had a physical newspaper and it was delivered to your office in the morning, and then you read the paper, you read magazines, and now everything is digital. Same with music. You used to go to the store and buy an album or CDs and, and have a collection and bring them home. And I know you still do have the album collection, right, Gary? You collect albums.
Huge album. I kept it all those years. It's been in storage, and I just pulled it out like a year ago. Hey, we got another commercial break coming up. We'll be right back with more with Lynne right after these words from our sponsor. Stay tuned. And welcome back to the show. I do want to say before we get into Lynne, I got something to say before we get into it every time. This is the Bitcoin Boomer Show, but not because it's for boomers. Well, boomers will get something out of it, but it's because I'm a boomer. I like Bitcoin. I'm a boomer. Bitcoin Boomer Show. Not that this show is just for boomers. This show is for anyone. So don't forget to share this show with anyone you think would be interested in Bitcoin. Now, Lynne, welcome back to the show. And I'm sorry I had to cut you off there. Let's get back to where you were before you talked about. You were talking about digital music and everything. And yes, I do like LPs. My whole system is set up that. But go back to where you were at.
No, I was just saying that now most everybody listens to music in a digital form. And so money is moving to digital too. It's just easier. It's faster. It's, less expensive to move it around. So, that's Bitcoin. And I think the other thing too is that, they want to see that coin when they ask you to see that coin. It's similar to the internet. It's like Bitcoin is not just the asset that goes, that you see the price, but it's also a technology. So it's the foundation, just like the internet moves around information and music and news. It's like Bitcoin is a technology that moves around value and money. And so that's one way to explain it too. That helps people kind of get their head around the fact that they say it's not tangible or that you can't touch it or there's, what's backing it.
That what's backing it always gets me. Well, what's backing your money now? And sometimes people will tell me gold who I thought were pretty smart, like neighbors and stuff. And I go, wow, you really haven't been keeping. And that was something I was going to make a point of earlier. You were saying that people just still, a lot of them did not know what Bitcoin is, but most of them don't know what money is. I mean, I didn't know what money was when I first discovered Bitcoin. I worked to have money. I put money in the bank. I spent money, but I knew nothing about it. I didn't know the Fed wasn't even owned by the U.S. government. I mean, I knew we weren't backed by gold, but people don't understand money and they're fine with it. So I don't know if they need to understand Bitcoin. They don't understand email and they're fine with it. And that's the example I have. And people go, no, I understand email. I'm going, really? What is HTTP? What, So I don't know if they need to understand it. They just need to get on the stick while they can.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And I think, it's just people do overcomplicate it. I mean, and so I think by making it simpler and by being able to, just dip your toe in the water, like we were talking about earlier. Just the easiest thing to understand it is to use it, to just get $10 worth of Bitcoin, to, download one of these apps that we talked about and start earning sats, free Bitcoin. And then you start watching it. And that's the easiest way to become educated is to use it. And I promise you, the very first time you make a transaction using Lightning from one person to another, you buy a cup of coffee or a book from a Bitcoin bookstore, and you see how fast that transaction happens. And you don't need to pull out a card, you don't need to punch in a PIN, you don't need to this and that. I mean, it's really impressive how much we can improve our ability to transact and exchange value to value through Bitcoin protocol by with little cost too. So yeah, it's really exciting.
And you don't see a lot of people spending their Bitcoin normally on a day-to-day, especially in these days and times with Bitcoin, with many people believing it's going to go up to $200,000 by the end of the year. No one wants to spend their Bitcoin for the most part because you could spend $100 now and it's worth $200 in a year. But when you go to a Bitcoin conference, you see a lot of Bitcoin being spent. That's for sure. And actually, when I go to a conference, I stock up. I put some Bitcoin on my phone just so I can spend it to make sure that I have enough in case I want to buy something. Because a lot of people, they'll only accept Bitcoin. I know I love it when they pay for stuff for Bitblock Boom tickets with Bitcoin. So, and it's so easy to do now.
Yeah. Yeah. But, we still have a tax issue with Bitcoin. So if you spend Bitcoin, depending on how you got your wallet set up, it's like you're getting a tax, capital gains tax because it's considered a sale of an asset. So, you think twice, and Bitcoin's appreciated so much in the last year that probably a lot of people are in that situation where they've got capital gains that would be triggered if they spend their Bitcoin, unless you've just bought it recently. So I think we need to have some tax reform around Bitcoin, at least for, up to a couple $1,000s a year so that it starts circulating more. But I think that's one of the big issues in holding it back. And then just, but you go to El Salvador, which I've been 3 times now, and it is more commonly used, in transactions, and you can use it in small amounts. And so, I still have the capital gains issue when I spend it, but it's so much fun and it's so great to be using it. And I really believe in and circulating Bitcoin around. So I think we'll see more Bitcoin once we have some tax reform around it.
And you're right about that on the capital gains. That's why I personally just go ahead and buy some Bitcoin, so that I don't have that capital gains. Maybe it's actually even worth less when I go spend it because I've only had it a week and maybe it dipped, so actually maybe I could take a loss. So that's my way of thinking. I don't pull out because I don't want to pay, it's first in, first out, on the taxes, and I don't want to pay capital gains on that big a hunk of percentage on anything, because I'm not a big lover of paying it to begin with. So I agree with you there. Now, we have about 4 minutes left, which we could end up doing some more talking after you get through with this. But is there anything you want to cover that we might not have covered, or anything you want to say, or you want to tell people where they can follow you, or whatever you go? You guys as much time as you want here.
Yeah, no, Gary, I just want to thank you for making this effort to be an educational resource for people. I think we do need more education that's friendly, that's easy to understand and easy to digest. And, one of the efforts you mentioned that I'm kind of organizing the Women at Bitcoin happy hour. I think women tend to think in terms that they want to understand things much deeper before they jump in. And I'm really generalizing here, but I think men will kind of jump in both feet. Women want to understand it, maybe a little bit more risk averse, but don't let that hold you back. This is an incredible opportunity. And one of my missions is to help women feel more comfortable exploring Bitcoin and getting comfortable with it and sharing resources about how you learn and creating a network where you see people that look like yourself. So you say, okay, it's easier for me to also say that I want to try this or I want to ask a question that I don't feel silly asking. So, these are all, I just encourage everybody to find the resources. There's lots of information available to help guide you to your Bitcoin journey, because I just feel it's foundational and importance for yourself, for future generations in creating a better financial future. So that would be my parting message. And in terms of where to find me, the podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Fountain, everywhere. And, if you're curious about what kind of innovation is happening in Bitcoin, I think we're one of the only ones that really touch on this, that really talk to the people who are developing the tools and the companies that are going to make it easier to use and adopt Bitcoin in the future. So I'm so excited every day when I wake up and think about the conversations I'm about to have. So we've done over 50 shows already, and there's a lot of fascinating conversations in there. So appreciate the opportunity to share that with your audience, Gary.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate you being on the show. And I want to go over something real quick that I just realized here. I have show notes here with just typical questions that I use in case I'm stumped or we don't have someone's not answering very long and I got to come up with questions. And I hardly ever look at them, but I was just looking at them. And one of my standard questions, which I don't know when, if ever I ask this, is, will Bitcoin become illegal in the United States? That question must be 5 years old that's been sitting there. I think we're at the date and point in time. I've had people tell me it'll become illegal, though. I think that's why I had that question. I feel comfortable saying with all certainty that Bitcoin is not going to become illegal in the United States. Not anytime soon, and I think it's going to be too well implanted to ever become illegal. We got 40 seconds left. What do you think?
I totally agree. We've reached the tipping point. It was a risk previously, but I think today it will never happen because it's too ingrained, it's too accepted. There's too much institutional money in it. It'll never happen.
Yeah. We're safe now. We've made it long enough that it's not going to happen. It's never going to disappear. So everybody, thanks for watching. Lynn, thanks for coming on the show. I do appreciate it. Remember to tell your friends about the show, and we'll see you next week. Oh, we'll see you right back after this word from our sponsor. Oh, we'll see you in a minute. See, that's what an old boomer will do. I'm out of it. Thanks. Boy, time flies by when you're having a good time, for sure. And I really enjoyed talking with Lynn, and I hope you found that informative. So please, I'm going to ask you one more time, share the show with your friends, and please subscribe. My goal on this show is to teach you about Bitcoin. That's it, just to teach you about Bitcoin. I'm going to bring on my great producer, Stephanie. Stephanie, what'd you think of today's guest there? I know you always have some great comments for us.
I don't know about great comments, but the comment I have today is that it's always nice to have guests back on and hear the progression of their business in Bitcoin, and that with Lynn being an advisor for what she pretty much advise on, bigger businesses or businesses within the network and Lightning products and stuff. It's cool that the future is bright and that there's no fear of Bitcoin going away anytime soon.
There's no fear of that for sure. And as I said in the show, I'm often referred to, because of how long I've been in Bitcoin, introduced as an OG, but believe me, Lynn is a real OG in the Bitcoin world. She's been in it a long time. Now, before we go any further, I do want to make sure tell you one more time about my conference. bitblockboom.com. This is our 8th year, and we're in Dallas, Texas. So do check out bitblockboom.com. Even if you just come to one of the social events at night, we have all kinds of tickets you can buy. Even if you just come to the Friday night social, this is something that every Bitcoiner should go to, is BitBlock Boom. Like I said, you can't get it any closer. It won't be this close for a while. Also, want to make sure you know about our meetup group we do in Dallas. You can find that at meetup.com/bitblockboom, meetup.com/bitblockboom. We're doing those kind of on a regular basis, but go ahead, go to the site, join the group so that you're notified when we do one. We do a lot of barbecues, things like that. You'll really enjoy it. So check out meetup.com/bitblockboom. Also want to tell you about the book that I helped co-write. That's Bitcoin and the American Dream. This is a great book. 8 of us got together for a week, rented an Airbnb, and wrote this book in a week, working from like 8 in the morning till 3 in the morning. I was wore out after it was done, but this is a great, great book. It's the kind of book that if you're going to take a flight, you can read it on a flight. It takes about 2.5, 3 hours to read. I have a lot of people who buy these to give out to people that they want to educate about Bitcoin, because it's not so in-depth that it takes forever to read. And also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at twitter.com, or X, should I say. Sorry about that. Don't forget to follow me on X at x.com/Gary Leland. x.com/Gary Leland. Thanks for watching, and until next week, remember to stack those sats. See you later.